welcome back to Starcastic Remarks, presented by DraftKings. Thank you guys for tuning in tonight, along with Christian Chambers. I am Ryan, and we got a jammed-packed full show for you tonight. Chris, how you doing?
I'm doing very well.
I'm doing very well. You sound like a robot. Okay.
Thank you.
Anyways, how's life going for you? Before we get into the actual stuff that people want to hear,
There's a lot of
you got
work.
more IT stories for us? Did you make more people happy again?
Yeah, I can give more IT stories if you want.
Go for it.
Uh,
Give us one.
okay, so someone said that we forgot to give them their graphics card in their computer, but if you know anything about computers, graphics cards are inside the computer, so that doesn't make any sense, but he was real upset about that.
So obviously, somebody that knows nothing about, computers or anything like
Yeah,
that, basically.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, we started school this week, and we had about 10 to 15 kids test positive for COVID. So, those of you be out there that are kind of, have like pre-existing conditions and stuff like that, y'all be safe, please, because this Delta variant is for real. Kids I've talked to who have come back from it say that it really sucks, and so y'all just stay safe out there. Okay. Anyways, we got a lot of stuff that we want to talk to you guys about. Some unfortunate stuff, some sad stuff, some good things, some weird things, and then just a couple questions that we're going to answer towards the end of the podcast, which is what will Canada and the USA Olympic team rosters look like for 2022? Because it looks like that's a almost for sure thing now. I'm happy about that.
Yay.
And this was something interesting that I saw on Twitter, but someone put out about missing hockey, and they said, why doesn't the NHL do a summer league like the NBA does? So I thought we might take a look at that and maybe get our thoughts on that, and maybe what would a summer league look like, and why would they do it, and stuff like that. So we'll get into that, of course, and then we'll get into our Who Cares segment for the evening as well to close it all up. So, all right, just to start off with a couple of things. First off is just a couple of news items from the past week. And yes, it's the off season, but there's still a lot of stuff that seems to be going on, more than normal in a regular off season. I know it's a shorter off season, but still. Just a couple of unfortunate things first. Rod Gilbert, he's a New York Rangers legend. He played in the 70s and 80s for the Rangers. He passed away at the age of 80. So I never watched him play, obviously. He was way before both of our times. But from what I understand, he is probably the equivalent and or bigger than Mike Modano is for the Stars. So very big, important player passes away for the New York Rangers. Thoughts on that, Chris?
I don't really know much about him as a player, but yeah, not good. It's not happy, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It's real tough for Rangers fans, but
The nice thing is that he did live a long life, so he was able to live a full 80 years out, and he was there was this really cute video that I saw on Twitter, but there was a Rangers fan who obviously was of age. He was older. He was like in his 50s or 60s, and he had a Rod. I almost said Ron. I did say Ron. Rod Gilbert jersey on, and he was like down in the bowl watching the warm-ups while the players are getting ready for the game. And Rod Gilbert saw the jersey, came up behind him, and tapped him on the shoulder and kind of surprised the fans. So that was a cool little video I saw on Twitter. So thoughts and prayers to the whole Gilbert family for that. And also, even more unfortunate news. This does not seem like a good offseason for these players passing away. And unfortunately, Jimmy Hayes, who kind of jumped around the league a little bit, passed away at the age of 31. He is the brother of current Philadelphia Flyers Kevin Hayes. So he signed that massive contract in Philadelphia a couple years ago, and that's his brother. And we don't know any details about how he passed away or why he passed away, but he does leave behind a wife and a 2-year-old and a 2-month-old. So prayers out especially to the whole Hayes family, and again, another tragic situation, whatever it is. We're praying for the Hayes family there. And then one other thing that happened over the past week was there was a car accident involving 3 junior hockey players up in Canada, and they were only 16 years of age. So just lots of sad news coming out of the hockey world this past week, Christian.
Yeah, I mean, I really the thing that struck me most was the second thing you talked about. I forget his name, but the
Jimmy
31 year
Hayes.
old, yeah, Jimmy Hayes, who died. I saw a lot of hockey players all across like Twitter and Instagram really posting about that, and it kind of like makes you think about how close that community really is together. Like these players are really friends. They're coworkers. Really, is what they are. They're not just competitors and teammates. They're coworkers in a sense. So it's really cool to see that they have that kind of brotherhood together. But it's of course it's in a sad situation, but it's good to know that they have that community together.
Well, it's always amazing to see when people pass away, especially at a young age, and just the impact that they make on people's lives. So a lot of the time, you see it just based off of social media, and you could obviously see the impact that Jimmy Hayes had on the hockey world, and specifically, it sounds like I think it was the Boston area, because I think he went to Boston College and played hockey there, and he was a big deal there. Again, prayers to all three of those families: the family of Rod Gilbert, the New York legend, Jimmy Hayes, and also the family of the three victims of the junior hockey players that passed away in the car accident over this past week. Let's get there's not a good way to segue into the next kind of news from the past couple from this past week, but let's just get into this next thing. And let the rumor mill fly again. So here we go. The city of Glendale, and most people may not know what the city of Glendale is. Glendale is a suburb of Phoenix, and that is where the Coyotes have called home for the past 8, 9, 10 years. And the city of Glendale chose not to renew the Gila River Arena contract with the Coyotes for the following season after this season, so for the 2022-2023 season. So the Coyotes are homeless right now after this season. And let the rumor mill fly. What have you heard about that, Chris?
I mean, we talked about on our Twitter the most likely place right now if that team is to move would be to Houston. It's a big market. The NHL has stated that they want that team to stay in the South because they want to have more footholds into the Southern market. So Houston is in the South.
Mm-hmm.
Huge market. Makes sense. I think it's unlikely. I think if they're going to stay in Arizona, I think the NHL wants them there. I feel like they think that's a large swath of land that they can further move into. Maybe
Right,
not
and I think it's
market size wise.
I think it's in the Tempe area. Was what I read or what I heard about. So that there's a possibility that actually it's probably strongly likely that they stay in the Phoenix area.
Some way. But I think the NHL just really wants to stay in. They want the Coyotes to be that Southwest team for multiple different states and not just for Glendale, obviously.
Right. So, I got a lot of thoughts running through my head. But first off, when I did a bunch of research on this story and looked the story up even further, it made sense why the city of Glendale dropped the Coyotes. One of the things is that this has been on a year-to-year basis. So the relationship between the city of Glendale and the Arizona Coyotes has not been particularly strong over this course of these years, and they've always wanted to have a more permanent arena, and that hasn't been the case with Gila River Arena. And Gila River Arena needs a lot of upgrades, right? It's an older building. They need to upgrade it. It's in a up-and-coming part of the Phoenix area. There's a lot of shops and, entertainment stuff around that area. But so that's, against the city of Glendale. The city of Glendale hasn't, offered to put money into the arena. But the other thing is that the Arizona Coyotes, from what I read, they're like months and months and months late on the rent for paying for being in the arena. And I think it's somewhere between $1 and $2 million. It might be more than $2 million. I'm not positive about that off the top of my head. I don't have the details right here in front of me. But, think about it. If you're a landlord and your tenant is not paying his rent for you know, 6 months plus, you want him to get out because you're not getting any money out of that, right? That makes sense. Yes,
Yeah.
no?
I mean, I don't know how big building contracts like that work, so maybe that's a normal thing. It doesn't sound normal,
No.
but
If that was a normal thing, then you would hear about that. It would have been mentioned in the article that I read, with other teams. I mean, like I specifically looked at like the contract between the American Airlines Center and the Dallas Stars / Dallas Mavericks, and they make it all work and stuff like that, right? And there's multiple buildings in America that host both an NHL team and an NBA team, and they make it work. And it's not just by year basis. They sign it for like a good 8, 10, 12 years kind of thing. So I don't see this as a normal situation. And so on the flip side of this, you mentioned the whole moving thing. So other than staying in the Phoenix area in Arizona, then it sounds like the most likely destinations for the Arizona Coyotes would be Houston and or Quebec City. And right now, both cities have a building that could, host an NHL team. I think that the Quebec City community would appreciate it more, in my opinion, just because it's in Canada. Hockey is a bigger sport in Canada. But the fact that you have Houston, which is the fourth largest metropolitan area basically in North America, I think is what it is. Maybe it's just America, but whatever. It's a really big metropolitan area. And they have every major sports franchise in their city. They have baseball, they have the Astros. Texans, they have with the NFL, and then they have the Rockets with the NBA. So it seems logical that the only thing that they're missing is an NHL team, right?
yeah, that makes sense.
Right? And I mean, and it's not like Houston has shown that they can't sustain an NHL franchise. They can, right? I mean, you see it with the other three franchises going on right now in Houston. So, is it likely they move? What do you think?
No,
I don't think so either.
Yeah, they want to leave Arizona where they are, no matter how terrible the franchise is run. I'm surprised that the NHL hasn't begged their owner. I don't know who it is to sell the team, but
Alex Marinello.
yeah, he's been doing a terrible
he's
job.
he's actually a new owner of the team. He's only had it for a year, so.
Well, he's done awful so far.
Yeah, and in his defense, maybe he just inherited a really bad franchise. Who knows?
Well, he definitely did, but that doesn't mean he's doing anything to make it better.
That's true. That's also true. There's some rumors that he tried to like treat it as a quote unquote family, and it didn't really turn out that well when all those bad things happened that came out against the Phoenix Coyotes earlier this year. And I think it was The Athletic that really posted an article about the Coyotes that was not in a very positive light. Let's just say that. So. Anyways, I think eventually what will happen to kind of put a bow on this is that the city of Glendale will not renew the contract at all, so they're not gonna cave in and say, okay, y'all can stay. I think eventually what's gonna happen is that the Coyotes are gonna move to Tempe and build their own building. Now, what they do for the 22-23 season, I have no idea, because there's no way even if they started a building like right now, like today, there's no way that it would be ready in time for 22-23 season to start. So I think that's what happened. So any last thoughts on that?
I'm surprised that Arizona is still a franchise. I'm surprised that they are still where they are, and it just keeps getting worse for them. And if you're an Arizona Coyotes fan, I would not make any kind of deposits that would be long term, because even though we're saying it's still not likely that they're going to move, just every year, just something happens with them, and it's like, okay, they're going to move this year. They're going to move this year. Like,
Yep.
just every year there's something. They can't have a quiet off season. So, like, it sucks to be a Coyotes fan is my final thought.
Right. I feel really bad for him because it's got to be rough to be a Coyotes fan. I mean, we went through our hard
that's what I
times
was
too
about
as
to
a Stars
say.
fan. So, after Tom Hicks had to declare bankruptcy and he sold the team and all that sort of thing, the Stars went through a period of time where the team was mediocre or below average at best. So it just feels like with the Coyotes, it just hasn't been, good at all. So, anyways, let me lead into this next question because this is off the top of my head. One of the things that I thought about was expansion teams. Okay, and expansion teams, we can see the difference between Vegas and Seattle, and then expansion teams of the past. Expansion teams of the past sucked. Like, legitimately sucked. And if you look at those teams now, those teams are not very successful right now, right? So, I mean, think about, like, the more recent ones before Vegas, which would be Minnesota and which would be the Columbus Blue Jackets, right? They've had some good seasons, right? But have they had, like, a sustained amount of success over a period of time? I mean, I would argue no. They've been around for almost 20 years now. So that the NHL kind of learned about that when Vegas came into the league and when Seattle came into the league. And they're like, okay, they got to have a decent team in order for the team to be successful. So what I'm saying right now is with Arizona, if they do move, it needs to be a couple of years down the road. And that's what I would plan for. Because when you look at the Central, there ain't no heck way that they're getting above 7th. They're getting 7th at best, in my opinion. And when you move, you want to be successful in your new market, right? Is that just me, or am I crazy? Or
You absolutely do. In the first couple of years, it's a really big thing so that you can draw in new fans, of course.
Right, and I mean, look at the success that Vegas had. Vegas went to the Stanley Cup Finals in their first year, and it's been a booming success. Look at the Stars. That's a little bit different. It was more of a relocation. But what happened 6 years after the Stars moved to Texas? They won the Stanley Cup. And then they went to the Stanley Cup Finals the year after. So there was sustained success for a period of time for those two franchises in particular. And, I mean, Vegas is still good now. So I guess what I'm trying to say is when Arizona moves, they got to have a good team. And that's going to take 3-4 years, in my opinion. I think they're expected to be bottom feeders. They're expecting themselves to be bottom feeders in the NHL. So, okay, anyways, let's go to our next thing. If you're looking for some sort of hockey fix right now, it's really, really kind of hard to find hockey right now. But the IIHF Women's World Championships are being held right now in Calgary. So, I believe it's being held on an NHL Network if you want to check that out. I don't have NHL Network. I wish I did, because otherwise I'd watch any kind of hockey right now. But we'll see how it goes. And, of course, Canada and the United States are the big two powerhouses, and they're in the same group, and we'll see how that goes. Anyways, a couple more bits of news for this week. I'm going to skip the next one, Chris, and come back to it. Okay. Eichel tweeted out an emoji on Twitter this past week, and Twitter exploded.
Hockey news.
I mean, that's how dire we are for news right now.
Eichel tweets non-word.
Right, exactly. And I forgot exactly what emoji it was, but it looked like a exhausted
face.
Yeah, right. So, and I mean, you could. Everyone's looking into it and speculating about it, and obviously, it's more than likely something about his situation with the Buffalo Sabres right now and all of that.
Yeah,
stuff.
The situation is he's still on the team.
Right, and we haven't really mentioned it much on our show, but he wants to get this really experimental surgery that most athletes have never done before. An NHL player has never done it before. I know that for sure. And it was really interesting because 31 Thoughts, the podcast, Elliot Friedman and Jeff Merrick had a physician come on, and he was the one that actually suggested the surgery to Eichel's camaraderie camp, whatever. And he came onto the podcast there, and he kind of explained how the surgery would look, what it would do, what the recovery time would be. and it seemed legit. It seemed like it would work and that it would be fine. Uh, However, the Buffalo Sabres don't want that. They want him to go the traditional way and just kind of rehab and try to come back. And all of that was before, the relationship between him and the Sabres were completely severed at this point. There's no return, in my opinion, on this. Any thoughts about that, Chris?
It's weird. This doesn't happen in hockey, really. I don't
It's
think.
so weird, and something so public like this, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, if what I really want to know is, there's been talk from Dallas Stars fans, maybe not the most educated ones, but there's been talk from them about trying to trade for him, and I want to know your thoughts on that.
I don't know. I really. I mean,
What
it's
a
Jack
great answer.
Eichel. It's Jack Eichel, right? I
Yep.
mean, who would not want Jack Eichel on their team?
Exactly.
All 32 teams in the NHL, 31 the other 31 teams in the NHL would die to have somebody like Jack Eichel on their team. But the problem is that his health is just so much of a question right now, and that's a big reason why he hasn't been traded yet. I think there are teams in the NHL that would meet the demands of the Buffalo Sabres for what would be required to get Jack Eichel off the Sabres.
You
But
don't think we're on that list?
it's a very, very, very out there thing. I don't think it's likely. Is it possible? Maybe. Is it likely? No. I would give it like a 5% chance. Literally. That's all I would give it.
Yeah.
No higher, not even 5.1.
I give it a 0% chance, just because we haven't heard any talks that Dallas has been interested either. But yeah, for them to get Eichel, the only decent price is, did you see Josh's hypothetical trade?
Right, yeah. So Josh Sanders posted a hypothetical trade on the Jason Robertson Fan Club and Hockey Talk Facebook group. And I don't have it in front of me. Chris, do you have it in front of me?
I
But
don't, but I remember what it was. It was for
it was Rope Hintz, right?
the hints.
It was
Hanley.
Harley.
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 Yeah,
It was
sorry.
Harley, a first-round pick in next year and a third-round pick the year after.
And it
So-
was Anton Hudobin,
And Anton Hudobin.
for one player who was injured.
Right. We don't know about anything about. That kind of makes me think a little bit.
Exactly.
Bit.
That's what I'm saying. That one is like
Right.
on the edge.
Right. That one is completely on the edge.
If that happened and I saw it on my Twitter feed, I would scream yes and then immediately ponder it for 4 hours straight.
But I mean, again, it's Jack Eichel.
Exactly.
Right?
That's why.
Right. And I mean, if you're trying to win now, I mean,
Jack Eichel would help.
he is in his prime. I kind of question about John Klingberg being past his prime, which he's not. But Jack Eichel, there's no way he's past his prime. Not a chance. He's 25, I think. 25?
I don't remember.
24, 25, 26. One of the three. He's in his mid-20s.
He's not old.
Yeah, he's not very old, and he can pretty much play with anybody and get them goals and assists. So that made me think a little bit. So there was another crazy trade that it said Rope Hintz, John Klingberg, 2 first-round picks, and then I was like, no.
Yeah.
On that one, not a chance.
That one is no.
Yeah, but that one made me scratch my head a little bit. It did. And,
Yeah.
Buffalo would get back Anton Hudobin, Hudobin. Hudobin would go there and probably would be their starter. Hintz could be on the top line and they could kind of build around him as they go.
Yeah, that's
Harley
why I brought
would be
it up.
Harley would be a good addition for them, and then the Stars would get something that could possibly help them win now. So
And that's why I didn't let you just blaze past this segment, because the more I thought about that hypothetical trade, I was like, man, that makes a lot of sense.
I was like, dang it, Josh. Dang it, Josh.
It's
Post
not gonna happen.
all those
though.
hypothetical. Yeah.
It's not gonna happen, but it makes a lot of sense.
Okay, so let me ask you one more question to finish this this little news story up. Does he get traded before the start of the season? And if he does, where does he go?
In his mind, yes, he's getting traded before the start of the season, and I
But
think if he
does it
doesn't get
happen?
traded, he's not playing. Does it happen? Yes, because he's not going to play for them. I have no idea where he's going to go. I don't think it's going to be to a team that's a cup contender already. It might go to a bubble team, but I don't think his price tag will be low enough to get him to a cup contender.
The biggest thing out there is the Rangers. And Rangers makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
They've got a lot of young guys that they could trade for Jack Eichel for. They're looking to get over that hump in the really, really crazy Metro division. And, the Buffalo Sabres could get good return for their product in Jack Eichel. So I think that the Rangers are going to need some help in kind of being pushed over by the Buffalo Sabres and maybe looking at his health records or whatever, and have the assurance that he is going to play for them this year or something, and then maybe they trade for him. But I don't think he gets traded before the season, in my opinion.
Do you think he plays?
I don't, and I think he just doesn't play. I just don't think he plays because they need him to rehab. So that's just what I think. Yeah, and he holds out and he just sits on the sideline and does nothing. Jack Eichel, number 2 pick behind Connor McDavid.
Not playing hockey.
That's insane. In his prime, in his mid-20s. So, anyways. Okay, it's funny how we're mentioning a bunch of Rangers stuff today, but Rangers have been in the news a bunch.
Sorry,
so
I'm opening candy real quick. Hold on.
What kind of candy, though? What kind of candy? Show me. Yes, I love those.
Sweet tarts for you audio people.
I already drank my Dr. Pepper. It's empty. So, anyway, to continue, I guess this is a Rangers podcast too. Unfortunately, Henrik Lundqvist, the king, the goaltender of multiple years for the New York Rangers, retired and officially announced his retirement. I felt like a lot of people knew this was coming anyways, just based off of the fact that he had to sit out last year and with his heart irregularity and his heart problems.
It still sucks.
I know. And it's especially sucks when you're that age and you still feel like you can play and you have that desire to play, right?
And he could play, and his team was getting better. And, yeah, that's not the way I wanted his career to end. That's not the way it deserved to end either. It sucks. I don't like it. I really liked him as a goaltender. It was really fun to watch him play. I thought he played with a lot of just like grit and stuff when he played in net. Kind of like that Hudobin grit, just stop the puck at all costs. But It's just sad. I don't like it.
So the Swedish goaltender, he was drafted in 2000. That was the year you were born, Chris.
Yep.
And he was taken, get this, in the 7th round as the 8th pick in that round. So he was 205th overall. That is insane to get a goaltender in that round that late in the NHL draft. He played 887 games, 459 wins, 310 losses, 96 overtime losses. Get this. He made 25,610 saves.
That's a cool stat.
That's a really cool stat. His goals against average was 2.43, which is excellent, especially nowadays.
That's crazy for a whole career.
And then his save percentage was 918, 64 shutouts, and over the course of his career, he played 51,817 minutes. So just a culmination of all those stats. The fact that he was a 7th-round pick in 2000. What's your thoughts on Henrik Lundqvist as he decides to hang up his skates and retire?
I thought he was amazing, and I'm sad that he is no longer playing hockey. It doesn't feel real.
And a lot of people, might not remember this, but he has a twin. And his twin used to play for the Dallas Stars, Joel Lundqvist. So
I did not remember that.
That's an interesting little tidbit. Another trivia fact for you.
Put that in trivia night.
Yep, Dallas Stars trivia night. Um, a lot of people are already talking about the fact that or considering whether he should be in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, yes, he should.
You think so?
Yes. Well,
Right.
the Rangers already announced that he's getting a banner, like the day
Right.
he retired. That's crazy.
Right, but I mean, like, he's the only team that, or they're the only team he ever played for.
Yeah.
So obviously, I mean, he's basically a Mike Modano of the New York Rangers. He's very important to that franchise.
He's definitely a Hall of Famer. There's no doubt.
The only thing that could possibly hold him back is the fact that he never won a Stanley Cup.
Doesn't matter with stats like that.
You don't think so?
The Rangers were a cup contender for years with a terrible team only because of him. He was the New York Rangers.
He was a big part of those
He
teams.
was the best goaltender in the league for like 3 years straight. It was crazy. Yeah, he's in the Hall of Fame.
Yep.
Dunzo.
All right, Chris
Inducted
says that he's in
tomorrow.
the Hall of Fame, so he will be in the Hall of Fame, according to Chris.
He's in my Hall of Fame at least. I'll hang a banner in my room for him.
He has won a Vezina, so that helps his Hall of Fame resume. He also led the NHL in victory several times. He won the gold with Sweden at the 2006 Torino Olympics. Maybe he does get there. I don't know. Maybe he does.
Yeah, he does.
I don't think he'll be a first ballot Hall of Famer. I don't think he will be a first ballot Hall of Famer and be eligible. I don't think he'll get in the first year he's eligible, which I think it's like 3 years after they retire is when
Something
they're
like
eligible
that,
to be in the
yeah.
Hall of Fame. But he definitely, with the stats he has, I agree with you. I think he has a shot. I really do. All right, continuing on. This is probably the biggest portion of news, which makes a lot of hockey fans across the world super excited. The IIHF has agreed to buy insurance for the NHL players participating in the Olympics, which includes COVID coverage. So the big reason why the NHL was unsure if the players were going to go to the Olympics was because of all this stuff of, well, who's going to pay for what? And NHL was saying, no, you're going to pay for that. And the IOC was like, no, you're going to pay for that. And now it appears and it seems like that they've got a deal in place, and it appears that the Olympics are a green light. So, exciting bit of news, right, Chris?
That is awesome. It's very cool. I can't wait. Where are the Olympics?
I don't even know.
Gosh, dang it.
Okay.
Where are Olympics? Computer, tell.
And while Chris is looking it up, the Olympics are also being held right now through qualifiers. So there's lots of teams that are going through these qualifying rounds right now, trying to figure out who will be some of those last teams to make those groups to make the actual Olympics.
China.
In 2022. It's in China again?
Yeah.
Well, I guess it was
Beijing again.
I guess it was in 2008. So they held the summer games. And honestly, if I'm arguing, the 2008 opening ceremony was one of the greatest ever.
Yeah, that's cool.
It was incredible. The stuff that they put on and the stuff they did. So, anyways,
That means we have to watch hockey at like 8 in the morning, if that.
That's awesome. I don't care. You kidding?
Yeah,
That's awesome.
school here doesn't exist.
Yeah, I don't care.
It's not like we have jobs other than this.
Hey
This pays for
kids, you
everything.
just go practice your instrument. I'm gonna go watch hockey. Okay. Anyways, so what that led us to do is to take a look at some possible rosters for the Canadians and for the United States. So it's freaking ridiculous how stacked the Canadian roster looks. So this is the first line, okay, that I came up with and that I've seen, and I'm stealing this from a TSN article. This is the first line for Canada: Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon, and Jonathan Huberdeau. Oh my god!
That's all right.
Bullcrap. That's all right. That's scary. And then, okay, second line, Sidney Crosby. Sidney Crosby is on the second line. I know he's getting older, but
Washed
still.
up. I mean, what do you mean? No, he's on the second line.
And then Patrice Bergeron and Brad Marchand. That is insane. That's a second line.
Yeah, that's the working line. Checking line right there.
Yeah, exactly. Third line, Mark Scheifele, Braden Point, and Ryan O'Reilly.
Yeah, don't expect much out of those three.
Braden Point is on the third line. Fourth line, Yanni Gord, Mitch Marner, and Bo Horvat.
Didn't Mitch Marner win some kind of award or something?
He was well, that was Austin Matthews, but he was
shoot,
top
my
5.
bad.
He was top 5 in NHL scoring, and on the depth chart,
He's a fourth line.
he's a
winger.
fourth liner. Oh my gosh!
I
Isn't
mean,
that
he's got to at least break the top 3 if he wants to be in the top 6. I mean,
oh my gosh!
number 5 is pretty low.
And then here's their 13th and 14th forwards. Okay, Nick Suzuki. Nick Suzuki is their 13th forward, and
player.
Mark Stone, the captain of the Vegas Golden Knights, is their 14th forward.
Didn't make the team. Poor guy.
My goodness, what the actual crap? Oh man, ugh. So, anyways, let me.
How does Canada ever lose? Can we talk about that? How does Canada ever lose?
I think the deal is that I really don't think all of those players are going to make the roster, and I think that they're going to go in a different direction, especially with the bottom 6, right? Because with those guys, there's plenty of players that can put the puck in the net, right?
Who cares about defense if you can score 20 goals?
Well, ask the Stars that. When Lindy Ruff was run and gun and released,
we weren't scoring
Tyler
20
Seguin,
goals though. We were scoring
we were
4.
We were outscoring our problems, and then what good did it do for us in the playoffs?
Well, in an 82 game season, it didn't work out great, but
in a tournament, it's not going to work out either.
It'll be fine.
It is a playoff style feel in the Olympics. That's my opinion. Okay. Anyways, so I think that the bottom 6 will look a lot different. If you're the GM for Canada, I think it might be Roberto Luongo who's the GM for Team Canada, trying to figure out players.
That's
anyways, okay, yeah, it's a little strange, but anyways,
the Olympics are just weird.
Defenseman, and get this is the defenseman for Team Canada according to TSN possible roster. Okay, first pairing: Shea Theodore. There's my Texan coming out in me. And Alex Pietrangelo. Second, Jacob Chikrin, who is extremely underrated as a member of the Arizona Coyotes, and Cale Makar. Cale Makar is not one of your top 2 defensemen.
Yeah, I mean, did you see that play he made in the playoffs against the Stars the other time? I mean, he threw the puck in his own net pretty much. It's pretty bad.
Yeah, right. Yeah, once as a rookie.
one time. Yeah.
Okay. And then Darnell Nurse and Dougie Hamilton finish out the top 6.
Letang?
So,
you can't kick Letang out.
Letang is not on the roster at all. So
according
Darnell,
to that
all right.
article,
So get this. So Darnell Nurse just signed a 9.5 per year deal, right? So did Dougie Hamilton. They're on the third pairing.
Yeah.
So there's $19 million in the third pairing for Team Canada. That's just insane to me. And then you end up with your 3 goaltenders: Carey Price, Marc-Andre Fleury, Darcy Kemper.
That's decent.
Decent in my butt. My gosh, it's amazing that Canada loses, right? It's amazing that Canada loses those games.
I'm upset that Letang's not on the team. Okay, let's move on.
All right, so
what a dumb decision by that TSN article guy. That's frustrating.
Yeah,
he's an idiot. Who is it? Who was it?
Button.
That makes sense. What a dumb name for a dumb person.
He's actually pretty smart. He actually said that Jacob Chikrin is top 5 defenseman, and I think he's right. Okay. Anyway, so
over Letang.
So here's the Team USA roster according to Kaplan. Uh,
It's a little worse.
it's still pretty freaking good.
Not as good as that.
Well, I mean, it's about the same though. I mean, all right. So
Mm,
get a load of this, okay? So here's your first line. Here's your top six forwards, okay? First line: Austin Matthews, Patrick Kane, Matthew Tkachuk. That's pretty good. That's very good.
the Czech's kind of a punk, but you know.
Yeah, but I mean, he kind of plays his role to a T. I love it.
Mm,
Okay, second line:
I get
Jack
it.
Eichel, Jake Gensel, and Kyle Connor.
Mm,
That's your top six. That's a really good top six.
it's not as good as having Crosby on the second line.
That's true. It's true. Third line: Dylan Larkin, Johnny Gaudreau, and Alex DeBrincat. Yeah, short people go DeBrincat. I wish we had gotten him instead of Riley Tufte. Again, really good third line, right? Man, Chris, you're just
I
so
mean,
like nonchalant about this. Like this is not a good
I mean,
roster.
after we talked about the Canadian team,
Yeah,
these
maybe we should
guys,
have started with the U.S. first.
yeah, these guys look like the Washington Nationals right now, bro.
And then their fourth line is JT
Generals.
Miller, Max Pacioretty, and Blake Wheeler. So, I mean, dang.
Where's Pavelski?
Pavelski's not
Where's
on
Robertson?
here. Nope. Not on
Jason
here
Robertson
either.
should be on there.
And so you've also got, as your 13th and 14th forwards, you got Brock Besser, and you've got Jack Hughes. So, again, two really good players as your 13th and 14th forwards. Okay, for defensemen, Jacob Slavin, who recently won I think it was the Lady Byng Trophy this past year, and Charlie McAvoy. This is where I think it's significantly worse than the Canadians. Second pairing, Zach Werenski and Seth Jones. So Team USA reunites the pair from their Columbus Blue Jacket days last year. And then their third pairing would be Ryan McDonough and Adam Fox. So former Ranger and Ryan McDonough and current Ranger Adam Fox. And then for their 7th and 8th defensemen, they've got Quinn Hughes and John Carlson. So I wouldn't say that's a bad defense because it's not. It's a really good defense. It's a really good defense. But when you're comparing it to the Canadians, what do you think? Less? Worse?
Yes, sure.
Yes.
Of course.
Sure. And then I think in goaltending, I think we might actually be a little bit better. You got Connor
According to
Hellebuck.
last season, yeah.
Yeah. You got Connor Hellebuck, John Gibson, and Jack Campbell. All good goaltenders. And I think we might not be deeper than Canada in that fact, but I think right now Connor Hellebuck, who
Hellebuck's better.
I
Yeah.
would think is a better goaltender than Carey Price. So that's just a quick little view at the rosters for Team USA and Team Canada, according to some of the TSN commentators. What's your thoughts on that, Chris?
And maybe what you were talking about earlier, saying like, well, sometimes Canada just gets all the all-stars and throws them on the team, and they don't end up being a really good team during the tournament. Maybe the Americans not having enough good players to do that artificially does that for us.
Right.
So while the Canadians have to think about it, we're just like, what are our best players? Send them over. And then
Right.
and then they end up actually being a decent team. So maybe. Probably not. We probably don't medal, but that's okay.
Yeah. I think we have a good I would love to see the Americans win the gold medal again. I mean that would be amazing.
Not gonna happen.
But when you've got Finland, you've got Sweden, you've got Canada, all three of those countries
Russia.
are scary. Yeah, not to mention Russia. Although they won't be playing under their flag, but
Whatever.
they're still playing. And that's freaking scary. So we'll see how that goes.
Side tangent, what a weird punishment. Like, well, oh yeah, you're gonna break the Olympic rules? Well, you can't use your flag.
Well, they also can't play.
Okay.
They can't play their anthem if a Russian gets a gold medal.
Still
So-
weird.
I know, but it's just a sense of pride thing, I guess. I guess that's what they're going for. Punishment through pride. I don't know.
It's a
But
weird punishment.
I agree. I mean, if they're gonna break the rules, then they need to not be participating. right?
Yeah, uh, that's
Oh
what I
gosh,
thought. I thought
how
that's
dare
how
I?
rules worked.
How dare I say that? How dare I say that? Okay, all right. Last thing we want to talk about hockey related wise is, uh, you know, exploring the logistics of what a NHL summer league might look like, and this kind of was spawned from a tweet on Twitter that we saw. And first one I want to talk about is just the NBA summer league. Okay, so the NBA has run some form of a summer league, since like the mid '80s, and it's been different things. But what they do is they don't like travel, right? So all the teams come to a central location. It's almost kind of like they're in a bubble, okay? Kind of like how all the NHL teams went to the bubble in Edmonton, and I already forgot the other place. Was it Toronto? Yeah, it was Toronto,
The
and
other
it was
place.
Toronto, and they just they just stay there, and then they play each other in that place over a period of like a week or two. And they experiment with like different rules and different rosters and different things like that. And one of the biggest things and biggest questions would be is how would a summer league work for hockey? So, Chris, you got any ideas of how a summer league would work for hockey?
It wouldn't work because there's too many prospects in junior leagues that would be against it that it would never happen. So, sadly, I'm the Debbie Downer in this situation, but the junior leagues would hate this because it would take away from their market share. They wouldn't get as many people watching their teams and participating in all of their things because they would just wait for the summer league stuff to happen. And the teams who are trying to draft the prospects, if you keep the junior leagues instead of replacing it with this summer league idea, then the NHL teams wouldn't like it because it gives their prospects more of a chance to get hurt. So logistically, if that's what we're talking about, this is a terrible idea, and it will never happen.
But the thing
But
is,
it would
okay,
be cool.
it would. See, he ended with that. Yes, I agree, and I see your point. But at the same time, all those leagues are not playing during the summer. The OHL doesn't play during the summer. The WHL doesn't play during the summer. The
It,
QMJHL doesn't play during the summer.
it
The
it's
NHL doesn't.
it still draws from the market share though, because the people who would go ahead and watch those junior league games to see their prospects would instead just wait for the NHL D League games to
Yeah, but
watch.
it's only. I don't necessarily believe that because if you keep, it's really not a league per se. Maybe the league part is a a
Well,
misadvising term.
it's a
It's more
loose
of a
term, but
tournament. It's I guess it's more a tournament than anything. And the thing is that it would be more for fun, and it would be more for training and getting your game going and stuff like that. And I think it would be interesting to see some of these things. Bless you.
thank you.
And anyways, but like, here's what I thought about it. This article I found has a lot of good benefits and stuff like that, and it talks about a bunch of stuff. But wouldn't it be fun to see just like a kind of like an all-star 3-on-3 league for like a week? Those would be games I would watch. That would be so much fun.
That would be very cool. I just feel like
And
you're
it would
not.
be and it would be with like and it would be completely voluntary, right? So maybe the NHL team throws them like a smaller stipend, maybe, hey, come play for a week and we'll give you 10 grand or something like that.
I
Make
just
it
don't
worth their
think
while.
for a 3-on-3 tournament that would not be worth a prospect's while because they're risking their potential revenue stream in the future, which is their body that they use to play hockey with. So I think a 3-on-3 tournament wouldn't work. The only way you could get prospects to actually come is to market it as a developmental league and use it to show more casual fans prospects before they get to the NHL and try and get your more casual fans more interested in prospect development and things like that. But I don't think
And it would be a big stage. Imagine on
it.
like a big stage for players like Thomas Harley, for
I
players
don't.
like Jason
You
Robertson
you
before this
couldn't get it
past
to be
year.
a big stage though. You're not going to get it on NBCSN. The biggest stage it's going to get on is NHL TV.
I
I
don't
think.
think so. I don't think
Ha-
so. With
I've never
if
seen an
ESPN
NBA D League game on NBC.
if the NHL can get on ESPN with their regular games and with their regular stars, because there will be regular stars that would come and play. Now, I'm not saying that it would be 100% of the league stars would come and play in this 3-on-3 summer league or whatever, but it would be. I think you would have some, and you could showcase those players. You could showcase the talent. I mean, you could give people like assistant coaches opportunities to teach and lead in a game where there's no pressure or stuff like that, right?
There's just not enough incentive for a hockey player to go ahead and do that.
Right, but if there
10 grand is nothing. What incentive would you use?
I don't know but that's what I'm saying is that if something like this would work, there would have to be an incentive for the players and for the TV contracts and whoever else involved.
Yeah,
and
I agree with that. If it could work, that would be really cool, and I would love it. But we're gonna speak logistically. Not really much of a chance of it happening.
The other argument that I would make for doing a summer league like this is it wouldn't be a lot of money. But again, what's the biggest thing we keep hearing about from these NHL owners? We lost $3.8 billion over this past year and a half. This would be a way for them to recoup some of those assets if they did a summer league. But I do want to mention what you kind of already talked about is why does the NHL not do a summer league and the NBA does? And obviously the bigger thing is that hockey comes with a lot more risks, right? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, that and the more complicated nature of how a prospect becomes an NHL player in hockey. So from basketball, you basically go high school, college, NBA. If you're good enough, obviously. That's best case scenario. But if you're a hockey player, your path is a lot different. I mean, you're going, when you're a teenager, like just barely a teenager, you're starting to go to junior clubs, and from there you go into an actual junior league, and from there you go to a minor league maybe, and from there hopefully you're getting drafted, and from there hopefully you go to the
There's
AHL
a lot more
maybe.
steps.
Yeah, there's a lot more steps, and there's a lot more different ways for it to happen too. Like in the NBA, like there's rare times when a player goes from high school to the NBA, but like
LeBron James.
But like that's not normal. So like it's just there's much more tangled wires in what you would have to do in hockey to get a summer league like that for prospects than in the NBA.
And obviously injuries is the biggest thing with all of this, right?
Junior teams wouldn't like it, NHL teams wouldn't like it.
Right, yeah. And exactly. So if something like that were to work, there would have to be some I don't know, there would have to be some mitigations.
Well, and the closest thing that has ever happened to this was the World Cup of Hockey a couple years ago.
And it was awesome, and it was great, and it was a lot of fun, and it was right before the NHL season. But when it ended up happening, yeah, it was great, and it was on all the big stations. It was on NBC, it was on NBCSN, it was on Versus, it was on all the other stuff. But there were a lot of players that got hurt, and they were out for portions of the season for their pro clubs.
Yeah,
and they hated that.
Yeah,
so
everybody hates that.
And I mean, if the owners hate something, it's not going to happen again. So, yep. And that's really unfortunate because that was kind of their. It was a reason why that they didn't go to the Olympics. So they're like, okay, we're not going to go to the Olympics, but we're going to do this World Cup of Hockey thing. And I mean, it was great, it was fun, but there were just too many injuries. And I guess the only mitigation you could do if you did like a 3-on-3 league or whatever, I guess you just take hitting out of it.
Boy, that sounds fun.
Right. Yeah, talk about the OHL. And that's something that...
Yeah, that'll be competitive hockey, won't it?
Right. And I mean, it might be fun to watch like some really cool like dangles and stuff like that and some really skill moves.
You'll like watching it if you like watching the NHL All-Star Game, which I, for one, do not partake in.
You don't partake in? I don't mind it.
I hate
it. They're trying. They're trying.
No, they're not.
I wish they would do other stuff for the NHL All-Star Game. Maybe we can talk about that next week.
I'll watch the skills competition all day, but I will not sit down and watch
what's your favorite? What's your favorite all-star or all-star? What's your favorite skills competition?
There's only one correct answer. It's hardest shot.
Yes, agreed. 100%.
If anyone says anything other than hardest shot, then you're stupid.
Well, it was really funny to watch one year. I forgot what year it was, but they did the fastest skater, and they put two goalies.
They always do that. They do that every year.
Oh
They always
man.
have two goalies at the end.
Oh man, I love it. It's so fun to watch those two guys just skate around and all those bulky pads and stuff like that. So, okay, Chris. Well, I think we're both getting tired. We're gonna lock up for tonight. We're gonna skip the Who Cares segment for tonight because it's getting kind of late anyway. So, you got anything else you want to talk about tonight, Christian? Anything else you want to say?
Haynes King is the starter for the Fighting Texas Aggies. He's going to lead us to the promised land, which is the national championship. We are going to overcome Bama. We're going to be SEC champions, national champions, world champions, solar system champions, all the champions. Giga Aggies.
Good luck with that. Thank you guys for tuning in this evening, and we really appreciate it. Those of you that tuned into the stream this evening, and also those of you that are listening on the podcast side, thank you. You guys listening to this podcast allows us to do what we love to do, which is talk about the Stars, talk about hockey, and continue to do it. So, once again, thank you for tuning in. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at StarcasticR, on Instagram at StarcasticRemarks podcast, Perker, and on Facebook, Sarcastic Remarks. It's a like page. I think it's just a group page. I don't know. Whatever. We will catch you guys on the flip side. Y'all have a very good evening.